Ryan Lucas is a recent graduate of the University of Michigan, where he studied theater management and business. And upon his return to America, he will be moving to New York City to pursue a career in producing theater. He's a native of Chicago, Illinois. Ryan Lucas.
Thank you, Raina. So, as Raina said, this panel is about the module. And in true POA fashion, it would be silly to not talk about the module without showing you the module. So I would like to invite 3 of our POA students to perform that module for us. Let me just introduce them quickly. So first, Lyndsay McCarver is a recent graduate of the University of Michigan. She received a BA in Women's Studies and focused her coursework on gender and health disparities. In fall 2013, she was introduced to the module in Dr. Hanif's class and presented it to the Horizons Network in Detroit, Michigan. In September, she will be spending a year in Sydney, Australia, working and traveling to give her tools to be a positive change to empowering people to make decisions leading to greater health for themselves and their families. Chene Karega is a recent graduate of the University of Michigan, where she studied social theory and practice with a minor in community action and social change. Last summer, she worked on a congressional campaign for the first African-American female mayor of Southfield, which sparked her interest in managing political campaigns for women of color. Currently, she is the political action chair for the University of Michigan chapter of the NAACP. As chair, she works closely with people of color at the university to get them civically engaged. And lastly, Marion Berger is an undergraduate student at the University of Michigan, concentrating in social theory and practice and German. Marion is passionate about topics ranging from queer and gender studies to the importance of communal care and organizing communities. Marion aspires to incorporate community organizing into a career as a professor after graduating. Without further ado, the module.
Okay, so the other day I was at Moyo, and when we were leaving, my friend Danny and I decided to, veer away from the group a little bit, and he saw this giant snake. So anybody who knows Danny knows, he had to reenact Nicki Minaj Anaconda. So, while Danny's dancing around the snake, he accidentally bumps his head. And there's a whole bunch of blood. And he's all like, Chene, oh my God, you have to help me get all this blood cleaned up before Nisha sees me. So I'm like, I don't really want to touch your blood because you might have HIV. And Danny's like, do you understand blood? Do you understand HIV? And I'm like, not really. Can you help me? And so Danny says that blood is just a bunch of dots. Can everybody see this? So there's 2 types of dots. We have our red dots and our white dots. So our red dots, they're like our taxis. They transport nutrients and oxygen throughout our body. So everybody just take a deep breath. So those are our taxis, delivering oxygen throughout our bodies. And our white dots, those are our warriors. They protect us from different sicknesses and illnesses that might want to hurt us. Okay, so now we know a little bit about blood, and we can talk about HIV. So does anybody know what the H in HIV stands for? Human. So this means that you can't get HIV from a toilet seat, you can't get it from a dog bite, you can't get it from a mosquito. And so the I in HIV stands for, does anybody know? Candace. Immunodeficiency. That's right, immunodeficiency. So that's just a big word to say that your warriors or soldiers don't work as well. So maybe this one loses a leg, and this one loses an arm, and let's say this one is blind, you can't see. So this means if any virus or germ tries to attack the body, then it makes it a little easier for them to do so. And the V in HIV stands for virus, and that's just a fancy word for a bad germ.
Great, so now I'm going to talk about the 4 different ways that you can get HIV. Alright, so number 1 is the most common way, and can everyone put their hands together? Start rubbing. You do it slow, you do it fast, but however you do it, things are heating up, and during unprotected sex, when you get that friction, that rubbing, there are little cuts and tears that maybe you can't see, maybe you can't feel, but they're there, and fluids are able to pass from one person to another. And if one partner has HIV, it can pass through those little cuts and tears. Number 2 is through sharing needles or injections. So everyone look at me through. Great. So the inside of an injection is hollow like that, and you can think about it like a straw. So when you're drinking a delicious strawberry smoothie, you can suck as hard as you want, but no matter what, there's always going to be just a little bit stuck inside that straw. And so just like with an injection, if someone uses it and has HIV, a little bit of blood is always going to be stuck inside that injection. And if I pass it on to someone else, if we're using it for medication or drugs, Chene might now have a little bit of my blood inside her. And if I have HIV, I can pass it to her. Number 3 talks about the ways that mothers can give HIV to their children. So you think about it with the 3 B's. So breast, belly, birth. Everyone do that? Breast, belly, birth. Great. So for breast, children can get HIV from breast milk. So if you were to think about an adult drinking breast milk, a nice frothy glass, they're not going to get it because they have big, strong warriors that can fight it off. However, babies have little tiny soldiers that are still crawling around, some are upside down, they don't really know what's going on yet. They can't fight off that HIV that's in the breast milk. So then belly, this is a way that mothers can pass HIV to their babies who are still in the womb. So if I'm a baby, I'm going to have you two be my womb right here. Great, so I'm a baby inside my mother's tummy, and I have my own fluids inside here. I'm protected by the sac, and all my mother's fluids are all on the outside. However, if my mother isn't healthy, if something happens to her, this wall might break, and then our fluids can get all mixed up. And if a mother has HIV, now I can get it because it's inside my little sac. Thank you. Lastly, mothers can pass HIV to their children through the process of birth. And during this, we talked about unprotected sex, there's a lot of friction. Well, during birth, there is a whole lot more friction. There's a lot of fluids passing. And when babies come out, they are like little sponges, and they can soak up all those fluids. And if those fluids have HIV in it, they can suck it up through their eyes, through their ears, anything like that. All right, so the 4th way that HIV can be transmitted is through blood transfusions. So if you think about a blood transfusion, there's a bag up here, and it's all airtight, it's protected. It goes through an airtight tube into someone's body. And because it's all airtight, no oxygen can get to the HIV and kill it. And if all that blood has HIV in it, it's passed straight into someone's body and they can get HIV that way. However, in South Africa, in the United States, you don't have to worry about that because all of the blood is tested. But that might be something to think about in various other countries. So now that I talked about the 4 ways that you can get HIV, let's talk about AIDS. So A stands for acquired, and acquired is just a fancy word for to get. So if I pass this marker to Nisha, she's now acquired the marker, and I'm going to take it back. Great. So you don't just wake up one day with AIDS. You don't just catch AIDS, but you can acquire it from HIV. The I and the D stands for immunodeficiency again. But this time it's much worse than with HIV. So in HIV, when we had our soldiers, I don't know if you can see this, so let's get 3 people up here. Ryan, thank you. Great, there's more people coming out. All right, so go ahead and link arms. And so these are our healthy soldiers. They're going to fight off any diseases. However, once we got to HIV, I think you're blind. You're missing an arm. There you go. And you're missing a leg. Perfect. So this made it a little bit harder for them to fight off any germs that are coming through because Katie can't see me coming. I can just knock Ryan right over. Yeah. Great. So that was with HIV. With AIDS, there's more stuff going on. So Katie, you also lost your arms. Yep. You are missing both of your legs, Melanie. And Ryan, you are blind also. Great. So now if I'm a germ trying to get into the body, I can just pass them because they are going to try and fight me off, but again, this isn't too hard. You can just knock them right over. Great, thank you. Awesome. So immunodeficiency just means that our soldiers aren't working right. They can't fight off the same germs that they might normally be able to. And S stands for syndrome. And this stands for a collection of diseases. So it stands for the flu that can get past those soldiers, pneumonia, TB, anything like that that can really just wreak havoc on your body once they get past those weak soldiers. And so we think of, it's important to remember this because people don't die from AIDS, but they can die from any of those germs, any of those diseases that can get into the body because the soldiers are so weak.
All right, so now that we've talked a bit about how the blood works, what HIV and AIDS are, and how you get HIV, let's talk about the facts that'll help prevent us from getting HIV. So, this F is a little funky. Does anybody have a goal that they'd like to share with me? Zach.
I want to be an astronaut.
Okay, so what are some things you think Zah needs to do in order to become an astronaut?
Go to school.
Yeah, school. What else? Train.
Pass physics.
Shane said not to get arrested. That's probably also. Okay, so all of those things that we just listed are ways that Zah can remain faithful to her goal of becoming an astronaut. And that's what our F stands for. It stands for being faithful to yourself and your goals. Often when we talk about being faithful, we hear being faithful to one partner. We like to talk about being faithful more as a personal thing that helps us achieve our own goals, because we can be faithful to our partners, but we don't always know that they're being faithful to us. So that's our first thing to help us prevent us from getting HIV. So in order to remain faithful to ourselves, we have this toolbox of acts that we can use to help us achieve our goals. So the A in acts stands for abstain, and that means no sex at any time whatsoever. That means no sex on weekends, no sex on Christmas, no sex on your birthday, no sex of any kind on any day. If for some reason you're not able to abstain, if that's not an option for you, we can move to the C, which is another option in our toolbox, which stands for condomize. So remember we talked about all that friction during sex that happens with all those cuts and tears? Could everybody rub their hands together again for me? Yeah. So, this is going to be a little tricky. Could one of you demonstrate? So, when you have a condom, you still have all that friction, you still have those cuts and tears, fluids are still happening, but there's a barrier here that's stopping the fluids from passing from one person to the other. C can also stand for conversation. So you need to be able to have a partner who's willing to have a conversation with you about wearing a condom. That's very important. T stands for getting tested. It's important to always know your status, so you can know how best to take care of yourself and others. And it's also important to test yourself for other STIs other than HIV. And the S stands for stay away from drugs and alcohol, because that can make it a little bit hard to remain faithful to our goals. Like Chene said, not to get arrested. Sometimes bad things can happen when you're drunk or you're high, and you kind of lose track of who you are and what you're aiming to do. It can also make it hard to remember to wear a condom, so that's very important. If for some reason you really cannot stay away, if you find yourself in a situation of severe peer pressure or something like that, you can also just try your best to stay safe by bringing a good friend with you who knows about your goals to remain faithful to yourself, and will help you do that throughout the evening. So now that we have all the facts, sometimes we still need a little bit of luck to help prevent us from getting HIV. And also to take care of ourselves if we are HIV positive. So a wise woman told us last week that you cannot give what you do not have. And she was talking about love. So you cannot give love to anybody else if you do not love yourself first. Loving ourselves helps us remain faithful to ourselves. It helps tell us that we are worthy of other people's love. But most importantly, it helps remind us that no matter what, if we are HIV positive, or if we're not, no matter who we all deserve love. It's also important to love others who are HIV positive, and this kind of ties into our U, which is understanding. It is important first to understand all the things we just learned about blood and HIV, and how you get HIV, and how you prevent HIV. But it's also important to understand that people who have HIV are still the same people as they were before they had HIV. So say every day I give Chene a hug before we go to class together. And I love Chene, so I'm going to hug her every day. Oops. Okay. Okay, and then one day Chene comes up to me. She tells me that she's HIV positive. And so what I'm going to do, if I understand all the things about HIV, and I understand how important it is to still love people when they have HIV, what am I going to do? I'm still going to give Chene a huge hug, and I'm going to understand that Chene is still Chene. The C and the K in luck go together. They stand for caring and kindness. We say that caring is kind of about your actions, and kindness is about your attitude. So you can be caring without being kind, and you can be kind without being caring, but we want to be both at the same time. So being caring is, say, Chene has HIV, and she wants me to help pick up her medication for her because she's too tired to do that. So I go to the store, I pick it up, and then I drop it off at her house. I don't stay to chat at all, and then I go home and I call my friends on the phone, and I'm like, God, I can't believe Chene made me pick this up. Like, she's had me run so many errands for her. I'm so sick of this. That's being caring without being kind. You're taking care of Chene. You're doing the things she's asking you to do, but you're not being nice about it. You're not understanding that you love Chene, and when you love Chene, you do some things that are maybe a little bit difficult sometimes and make you go out of your way. Being kind. So I could talk to Chene all the time. We're BFFs. We hang out at lunch. All this stuff. But then the second Chene asks me to do anything for her, I'm not willing to do it. I'm like, oh no, I'm too busy. I got a test tomorrow. I got other stuff to do. So that's being kind without being caring. What we want to do is to do both. So I want to run errands for Chene and be kind about it. Yeah, so that's everything you need to know about HIV.
Thank you very much, students. Well.